Hi, Glenn Hausman here for heretostay.tv, coming at you from the Service Department Summit Recharge in Berlin. And I'm with Paul Rands of BridgeStreet. And Paul, I got to tell you, what an interesting concept for the event. I love that the first day we get out and about and actually experience a variety of different properties.
Absolutely, and great to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you too.
Glenn, and in a very different environment here.
Right.
And I think great what Piers and the team have done in terms of the event. As you say, yesterday, something very different, escape room.
Right.
I was in with 5 people I'd never met before in my life, but come out after that and start to make conversation.
Not just an escape room, but an escape room in a cool alternative accommodation.
Absolutely. Well, of course.
Yeah.
Where else would it be? So, but it was great. So, gave us the opportunity to have spend some time in an apartment. Actually, well,
right.
We were in there for 35 minutes, or
which actually, in retrospect, I realized, hey, we were in there for such a long period of time. Usually, it's like, oh, look, there's a bed, there's a kitchenette. All right, time to move on. But we really got to experience the space.
We did, and we also worked out how many blokes you can fit in a Vision Apartments bathroom, which we'll let them know if they'd like to know that. But yeah, great event, great way, I think, of getting people together and interacting and ice breaking yesterday. A couple of apartment tours, seeing 2 different styles of apartment. I think doing the same thing, but actually doing it in a slightly different way.
Right.
And I think what was interesting also yesterday, just talking to people, was the different views that people had on each of those. And,
right.
there were contrasting views on which maybe was better for a longer stay and which wasn't, etc.
Right. But that's fine, because one of the things that I'm noticing is all accommodations can't appeal to everyone. Because I like to say this a lot, because when you try to appeal to everyone, you wind up appealing to no one, right?
Yep.
So you have to have a strong, definitive point of view. And one of these points of view that we're seeing now is the whole emergence of the idea of not just service apartments, but co-living, creating that sense of community. And for a company such as BridgeStreet that was at the forefront of service apartments, you've got to start thinking now probably about how do you adapt to meet the future needs of people. So how do you process all of this?
Well, I think it's really interesting, and you're right. Arguably, we've been doing this kind of co-living.
So is it the same? Is it different? How do you do this?
Well, I think it's evolving, as most things do. And I think how you define co-living, perhaps we shouldn't, because I think we tried to define for a long time what a service apartment was, what a depart hotel was.
Yeah.
But what it seems to be being defined by is the need of the consumer. And I think what we're hearing a lot is that there is a demographic that is coming into cities, new cities to them, that want a sense of community, that perhaps has disappeared, the old-fashioned ways. Equally, people don't tend to live where their families live anymore.
Right.
We're much more nomadic, I think, in terms of where we are. So the co-living, communal living, I think it sort of leads towards that. We're kind of doing it in a different way, I suppose. Are we looking for permanence? Is somebody coming into a co-living looking on a permanent basis? We tend to be more transient with our people. The 7 nights plus, but some stay much longer. Some have different needs in terms of what they want from that experience if they're working on a project, and perhaps spending a lot of time in the office. If you're coming in and living in a city as new, you probably want something slightly different.
Right.
I think what was interesting in some of the debates we've had today, actually, is it's the point around, is it actually the physical environment, or is it people in the environment that create the co-living idea?
Well, I think it's creating a space that facilitates the meaningful interactions between people.
Yeah, and I arguably where we have a front desk and we have great teams that can help people integrate into the environment they're in. I think that happens to a degree anyway. But I think what people are looking for in co-living, arguably, is taking it that step forward, becoming real introducers. Doing what these guys doing here, if you like, of breaking the ice and getting people together. And I think that's something that's perhaps different from the traditional service department model.
Right, I agree, and I think it's changing in such a way because your company has been introducing a lot of new technology that connects you directly, more so in real time with that end user. So it's no longer about making deals with corporations, it's about making deals with people as well. When you're dealing with the individuals, it's very different than, hey, someone's going on a work assignment for X period of time. So all of a sudden, I feel like with your company, your opportunities have broadened, they've changed, there's a whole new dimension that's coming into play.
And it's about giving people choice.
Right.
Our 6 ways to stay is about giving that choice, isn't it? And allowing the consumer to have a much wider view of what's out there, and then they can choose according to what they need and how that works. I mean, I think one of the things, perhaps the message that's coming out of the whole co-living conversation, and indeed the conversation here over the last couple of days, is what we need to be thinking about doing within our buildings and our services that are kind of meeting some of those demands that are increasing now. Do people want that social space? They need it. We're kind of doing that with Mode and with Studio, and I think getting to that space. But I think it's listening to the trends, listening to the demands of the market to see where you can get to.
I would argue that you're absolutely right that you want to appeal towards that group of people, but there's also groups of people that aren't going to be following this particular trend, right? Which is why I think the 6 Ways to Stay is so clever, because it's different flavors of the same concept that appeal to different psychographics.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, just like we have different brands within our own portfolio which meet the different needs that our clients want, actually the space as a whole, having different brands is a great thing. And what we've seen over the last 5 years or so, and the 5 years that SAS has been in existence, is that those brands have developed and improved and grown geographically, and the companies behind them have developing their model as well. And that's great. Its choice is good.
So where does this go for companies such as BridgeStreet in the future?
Well, I think we need to keep listening. We need to keep evolving. We've been doing that with the technology platform. I think we still have our operating platform. We still have our brands. And I think it's working to provide those solutions, ultimately, that the consumer wants. And we deliver it. Our partners deliver it. Hey, and everyone's happy.
Beautiful. I love it. A perfect place to end. I like ending on a happy note. So thanks to Paul, Rands, and myself. You've been watching Here to Stay TV.